Good morning. This is Pat O'Connell calling to order the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission's regular open meeting on Thursday, September 7th, 2023. I'll ask Office of General Counsel, Mr. Scott Cameron, to call the roll.
Excuse me, Commissioner Aguilera. Present. Commissioner O'Connell.
Present.
Commissioner Ellison.
Present.
All commissioners that are present, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next step is a pledge of allegiance and the state pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Mr. Rodriguez, do we have any public comment? Oh, sorry, I skipped something. Consideration and approval of the agenda. Commissioners, do you have any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I have one request that we move the first utility matter B1 to the regular action agenda.
And I would on the first consent item under transportation, I would like to table that one to have more time to consider it. It is not one that has a statutory date.
Okay, so just to make sure I heard this correctly, we're talking about tabling consent action item A1, so that's case 23-0085 TRN, and we're gonna pull consent action item B1, case number 20-00237 UT to the regular agenda. I'll propose that we'll take that as item 3, just so Mr. Lundin can do all his presentations at the same time. Okay, so I move that we amend the agenda as just discussed.
A second.
Vote please.
Commissioner Aguilera. Aye. Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Great, we have an agenda. Next item, Mr. Rodriguez, do we have anyone registered for public comment this morning?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have 2 people in Zoom, and I believe one gentleman said he would appear in the hearing room this morning, although I'm not sure if he's there.
Yeah, there is.
One take the Zoom public comment, or
I'll take the in-person person first. So I see that he's here. So sir, could you come to the table and go ahead and push the red button so it turns green. And then we've got a long agenda today with a long presentation. So we're asking that if you could keep it to 3 minutes, that'd be great.
I'll definitely try. I want to first give my name, Gordon West. I'm a solar producer interconnect customer of PNM since approximately 2016. I want to thank Mr. Ellison because he gave me instruction at the last meeting on the 31st to contact the PRC compliance division. I never have been through anything like this before. I've got a history of reasons to have a grievance with PNM, and I especially want to point out that the PRC webpage website resources were invaluable in the last few days. I had no idea what I would find there, how to investigate it. I want to say thank you for the job well done to the people that make sure that the public can be informed from that site. There is a method of finding the compliance issue that was a little different for me. I did find it, learn about it, and see that the Regulatory Commission observes the utility that they have jurisdiction to allow privileges. And I clicked into that. I was able to present my case. Thank God it wasn't a run-on sentence, because you do need to make paragraphs in a written presentation. And it is important that other people in New Mexico realize this, because I cannot be the only solar provider that has received no compensation on a regular basis since my system was turned on for renewable energy credit. It cannot be just one person. This is impossible. The point I want to make today is PRC document that came off that website. In case it needs to be seen, it's laying here. It is simply stating that a solar customer with a small system is given 12 cents a kilowatt hour for credits. I have looked up the applications that that PNM is submitting back in December. Well, I've got the dates wrong on the tip of my tongue, but long before January 1st, 2024. So these things are coming. The rate increases are asked in various ways. Then there are tariffs. There are riders. The fees that PNM continually raises to the average customer that lives off of probably less than 1,000 kilowatts usage a month in a small home or dwelling is just unbelievable high. It's costing New Mexico their future. It's preventing a growth of New Mexico. It is a real wrongdoing situation where the prices of every detail of their cost goes direct to the customer. Income taxes, transportation costs, fuel costs. I love being in profit. I was in business and service for 40 years. And I agree with the fact that we have to make a living. But I asked the PRC to just recognize one quick thing in my case. This is a picture of a document that I produced that is simply showing the meter reader's value right outside my meter to be the same on the same day as my meter. The value of 99,962 that day is now almost 10,000 less because their rec meter runs backwards after it hits the full value in its lifetime of 9,999. It just runs backwards. So if I have this value and are due renewable energy credits, it has to go on their records. This is 2023. The problem is the same as it was in 2020, where records show on PNM system that in 1 month, the recorder of the meter reading for the rec meter was 67,114, and the next month, 68,196. That makes some common sense that a bigger system of 10,000 kilowatts can produce power. That's a record of it that they record off of my meter. Then in 1 month, it went up to 99,950. That means that in 1 month, I must have produced 31,000 plus kilowatt hours of power. I was never paid a penny of renewable energy credit for any of that kind of example. That was 2020. It happened again prior to 2020, and they replaced the first meter. The second meter was replaced. The meters go back to zero. The production goes up. Now I'm at 99,999 again, except their meters are running backwards. My presentation is enough to say, I appreciate your effort in trying to regulate this, but I cannot be the only person that is affected by their electronic systems that do not work. Once the meter reader, an honest man, puts that number in and shows it to me and I can take a picture of it, it's done. It's on the cloud. It's in PNM. And once they say in their written documentation that they will pay renewable energy credits in the next following month for anything over 200 kilowatt hours, they are continually not doing it. It is simply theft. I thank you for my time. I'm sorry if it went over 3 minutes. I couldn't tell.
But thank you for your comments.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Patrick, I think you said that there was 2 folks on Zoom wanting to give public comment.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
I'll turn it over to you to facilitate that.
Sure, I'll call out the individuals in the order they requested the invite. Camilla, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Good morning and thanks to the commissioners and staff. I'm Camila Feibelman. I'm the director of the Rio Grande chapter of the Sierra Club. I'm here this morning to inquire about the implementation of the apprenticeships requirements in the Energy Transition Act. Before I go into the reasons for the request, I want to express my general excitement at the ongoing implementation of the law. If all goes well, customers will be fairly compensated for the early closure of the San Juan Generating Station. Workforce Solutions and Indian Affairs have begun to deploy their community transition funds to workers and truly community-based sustainable economic development projects, though we're still waiting to understand how the Department of Economic Development will deploy their funds. The all renewable and battery storage replacement for San Juan coal is moving forward as supply chains recover. But there's one key piece of the ETA, and that's ensuring new opportunities for emerging workers in the form of apprenticeships. The ETA requires, and I quote, the construction of New Mexico facilities that generate electricity for New Mexico retail customers and that are not located on the customer side of an electric meter should, 1, have 10% of apprenticeships for projects for which on-site construction commences January 1st, 2020 and prior to January 1st, 2024. And then from there, it goes to 17.5% and then to 25% as time passes. I understand that the New Mexico Building Trades filed a motion for bench request order inquiring as to how this requirement and the related rules are being implemented in community solar projects. The Sierra Club is extremely concerned about a just transition for workers and would like to ensure that all new energy built in New Mexico follow the apprenticeship requirements. So I'm therefore requesting that the PRC attend to the building trades motion and more generally publicly describe how apprenticeship requirements will be enforced. And I know that the Workforce Solutions Department has a role in that, but I think overall the question needs to be asked and answered and ultimately enforced to ensure the ETA compliance. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments.
Next, we have Tom Solomon. Tom, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners, for this chance to speak. My name is Tom Solomon. I'm a PNM customer in Albuquerque. My interest in this case is to ensure that we complete a just transition to a carbon-free future as fast as possible to preserve a livable climate for my family and for all life on Earth. To that end, I fully support PNM's goal to accelerate their move to a carbon-free future, all carbon-free power by 2040, 5 years sooner than required by the ETA, and specifically to phase out all of their gas-fired power plants to meet that timeline. These plants are on the rate base of every PNM customer today. It makes sense to me to ensure that they are fully depreciated as financial assets by 2040, consistent with their goal, to make sure that they are all paid off by that date. The alternative is that we as PNM customers will be left with a large balloon payment, if you will, to pay off the remaining undepreciated value of those plants in a lump sum in 2041. or that P&M's financial incentives line up to keep them operating those plans after that date. Neither of those is a prudent scenario for P&M's customers or for those of us fighting to preserve a future for our children. We as customers are liable to pay off these plans one way or another. It makes sense to me to smooth out those payments and to get that debt off our books by 2040. P&M wants to do that, and I support their proposal, and I hope that the PRC supports it as well. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. So Patrick, I think that concludes the public comment session.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is announcements. I think we'll start with Office of General Counsel with a recitation from a meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the recitation. On August 25th, the commission, minus the chair who was recused, met in executive session, which was closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, section 1015(1)(h)(3), deliberations by a public body in connection with an administrative adjudicatory proceeding. I affirm for the record that the matters discussed in the closed session were limited only to those specified in the notice and the agenda for that meeting, specifically deliberations regarding PRC case number 22-00270-UT in the matter of the application of Public Service Company of New Mexico for revision of its retail electric rates pursuant to advice notice number 595. I further affirm that no official or final actions were taken.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements from Office of General Counsel?
One other, Mr. Chair, in the earlier this week, we had an attorney join us. His name is Kevin Getko, and if you wanted to come up for a second just to introduce himself, and I'll let him say a few words if he likes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kevin Gedko, and I have a little bit of history in utility regulation. Worked for the Attorney General, but I'm happy to be here with Office of General Counsel and supporting the Commission in its work. So happy to be here. And hope I can do good work for you. Great. Welcome.
Welcome. Pleased to have you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So I'm not aware of any announcements. I looked at our public hearing calendar, and the only public hearing between now and our next open meeting that's been scheduled is the ongoing P&M rate case, which we'd already announced previously, but that's available if you want to watch the commission at work on YouTube. So anyway, I don't know, commissioners, if you had any other announcements.
Yeah, we also have a workshop for concerning day-ahead regional markets on the scheduled for the 21st. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's the day of the open meeting, and so it's right after the open meeting. So, so wanted to mention that, and I am in following Commissioner Ellison's lead, trying to identify who can provide a presentation to sort of set the stage for that. One of the people I had thought is probably not going to be available. So I, keep thinking through that. There's a small chance I might ask to reschedule. So just wanted to, I don't think so, but just wanted to, mention that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Revealed the engineeriness of myself. So, Commissioner Ellison, did you have any announcements?
I have no announcements under this section.
Okay, great. And then next up, in addition to Mr. Gedko, we have a few other new employees who've joined us recently. And so I was going to ask our Chief of Staff, Joya Corey, to just provide some introductions. Some of them might be here, but many are not. I tried to reward those who are here with donuts, so there's that opportunity, but go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Besides Mr. Gedko, who just joined us, we have a couple of people who have joined us either online or in person. So as I introduce them, if they wanted to say 2 sentences introducing themselves also so that we can see their faces and get to know everybody. So first we have Felicia Hohola. She's a public utilities economist in the Accounting Bureau of the Utility Division. I believe she is online.
Hi, I'm Felicia Hohola. I'm with the Accounting Division and I joined the PRC in mid-June.
Next, I have Marcus Erickson. He's a transportation state investigator in the Transportation Division. He just joined us recently, but I don't think I've seen him online or in person, so we welcome him as well. We've also had Tyler Crespin, a public utilities economist, in the Accounting Bureau of the Utility Division. I don't see him online or in person, so we welcome him. Earlier this week, Miss Angelique Herrera is joining us in the Utility Division as a utility case manager, and I see her online. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Choya. And good morning, commissioners. I believe we had the opportunity to meet a few months ago, so I am happy to be here. I'm joining from the Attorney General's office as well. So I look forward to working with everybody, and thank you for this opportunity.
Next, we welcome Orland Whitney. He's an engineer in our Utilities Division, and I believe he is online.
Hey everyone, just a couple sentences about me. I've got a background in electrical engineering and I'm happy to join. Power systems and renewable energy are also my areas, so I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And while not directly staffed with us through our payroll, we have 2 interns with us. First is Yvette Visus. She is a DOE fellow with us.
I'm here to support the community solar program. And before this, I was in the developer space for community solar out in New Jersey for 3 years.
Thank you. Welcome. And last but not least is Jing Ji. She has been our NARUC intern this summer. So it was a short stint, about 10 weeks, and this is her last week. I'm not sure if she's here via online, but I did want to thank her for her work with us. She worked with Art O'Donnell in the Chief of Staff's office, as well as did some time with Ed in the Utilities Division.
Wow, thank you. Just feels like we're picking up some real momentum here, filling some positions that have been open for a while. And just personal privilege, take a moment just to thank everybody that was here the day we got here, January 1st. I mean, that throughout my time here at the PRC, I've just been impressed by the dedication and professionalism of the folks who are here. Then we had a decent number of folks who joined from January to now. And now we're on kind of on the next layer of excitement and bringing new folks. And so for the new folks, welcome. I think you'll find the work we do is important. I think you'll find the folks you're working with are very dedicated and experienced. So really looking forward to seeing what is right around the corner. Commissioners, do you have any other comments?
No, nothing to add to that. I'm absolutely well said. Welcome to, those who have just joined, and thank you to everyone else for sticking around.
I want to echo those sentiments. It's great to see our progress and welcome to all the new folks who are joining us. We're excited about the progress we're making and about our work together, and looking forward to having you on board.
Oh, thank you. I think that concludes the announcement portion, and then kind of this nice segue into what happens next. I think Commissioner Ellison, you have the privilege of Employee of the Month this meeting.
I do. It is my privileged to announce that our employee for the month for September is Lori Ann Santillanes, who is law clerk in the Office of General Counsel. She's been with the PRC for 14 months. And let me read her nomination. Lori works hard every day to ensure the smooth operations of the Office of General Counsel. Not only does she deftly handle the day-to-day business of OGC, but she also goes out of her way to independently take initiative to work on issues that need to be dealt with, some of which have been lingering for some time. In addition, Lori constantly says an enthusiastic and honest yes to every request made of her. And if she cannot complete the task, she makes sure to figure out who can and how she can help them deliver what is asked for. Finally, Lori does all this with a smile, a kind word, and an infectious positive attitude. She is truly a gift to OGC, and we applaud and thank her for her hard work and commitment, not only to OGC, but the agency at large. Thanks, Lori. And I want to echo those sentiments. Ms. Santillanes is critical to all we do here at the PRC. After our open meetings, you generally see a flurry of emails that she sends out, and those are actually promulgating and recording the decisions that we make here. So literally we all depend on the work Lori does, and we thank her very much.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you, Lori. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or just?
I would just add that I had no idea that Lori had only been here for 14 months. I assumed she had been here much longer because everything runs smoothly. So
Right.
but thank you and congratulations.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is approval of prior meeting minutes. The packet of minutes that we have for approval today are the minutes from our special meeting on reliability that was August 21st, 2023. Are there any changes to the minutes?
I don't have any changes.
I don't have any changes here.
Yeah, I don't either. So I'll move that we adopt the minutes for the special open meeting on reliability from Monday, August 21st, 2023.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Aye,
Commissioner Aguilera.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
great, thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda is a presentation from the Socorro Electric Co-op. I believe there's a gentleman named Mr. Williams online who will be handling that presentation. And just thank you for joining us, Mr. Williams. Just a little bit of introduction on this is apparently there was a significant outage in west central New Mexico. And we've had a few of those in New Mexico this summer, and in all of them, we've had a presentation from the utility. So thank you for joining us, Mr. Williams, to get an overview of that outage. We have your slides, and then we'll post them. I think they're trying to make them available to other folks. But what I'm seeing from your slides is that they're very information dense, which is fantastic, but can you stick to just kind of the high level of what happened out there?
Yes, sir. I sure can.
Thank you.
Can I share my screen or?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay. So just going, thank you everyone for having me this morning. Please excuse the allergies going on. I may have to sneeze or whatever, but New Mexico around this time of year produces a lot of pollen and stuff for allergies. So anyway, getting down to the outage that happened on August 7th, 2023. Oh, right. Sorry, My name is Jared Williams. I do have a background in co-op, in the cooperative world. I recently just started this position as Director of Communications and Public Affairs with Socorro Electric Cooperative back in June. I started on June 5th. It's been kind of a whirlwind, especially with this outage. I actually came from Continental Divide Electric, or Continental Divide and Energy and Telecommunications Cooperative in Grants. I worked there for 4 years and mainly dealt with their broadband division. So moving on to the outage, here's a small timeline of everything that happened from August 7th until August 9th, about 52 hours during the outage. It was a significant outage. However, we never stopped working to get the power turned back on. I can say that definitively because I was there at the substation myself the whole time. So to start off, on August 7th at approximately 1:15, lightning struck the Socorro Electric Magdalena substation, Socorro Electric Cooperative Magdalena substation. So actually, some interesting information that happened at that time was between the hours of 1 and 2 p.m. The area around Magdalena, Alamo, basically into Socorro, experienced a total of 40 significant lightning strikes stemming from 23 different storm cells in the area. And that's according to the National Centers for Environmental Information, the NOAA Severe Weather Data Inventory. One of those significant lightning strikes hit our main substation transformer at about 1:15. At that time, it disrupted 2,331 active meters, electric meters. So very shortly after that, we started getting calls from people to report the outage. At approximately 1:30, a Socorro Electric crew was dispatched to the Magdalena substation. Once an OMS report was ran to pinpoint the service outage. Once the crews arrived on scene, they started going over their safety briefing and started working on seeing why the power was out. Excuse me. At about 2 p.m., the substation testing protocol began to find the definitive issue. All circuits were open, 3 blown fuses were replaced, and breakers were checked along with all arresters, and the whole basic system was checked. At about 4:08, we did decide to switch or to open some switches from the Camado substation to restore power to the Pie Town and Battle area. That was also affected by this. That was at our point just outside of Dattle, where we were able to get that switch turned over. That restored power to about 727 electric meters, leaving 1,604 electric meters still offline. At about 5 o'clock, after the testing protocols were exhausted, the substation wouldn't come back online. The crews began to suspect that there's something wrong with the substation's main transformer. So very shortly after that, a call was made to Tri-State for a substation specialist to drive from Albuquerque to Magdalena, actually from Rio Rancho to Magdalena. At about 7 p.m., a Tri-State substation specialist arrived and did a dissolved gas analysis test. Excuse me. The dissolved gas analysis test basically proved that the transformer was rendered inoperable at that point. At that point, well, we had already started earlier in the day to try and pinpoint and find a mobile substation, just in case the transformer didn't pass the DGA test. So about 4 p.m. we started looking. 4 p.m. on August 7th until August 8th at about 10 a.m. At about 10 a.m. on August 8th, Tri-State confirmed that we could use their mobile substation, which was in Sidney, Nebraska. We did try and look for mobile substations within the state of New Mexico so that way we could get the power turned back on quicker. However, there wasn't one readily available within New Mexico. And we also looked for transformers, and unfortunately those were very, very rare and weren't available either. So at about 11 a.m. on August 8th, the mobile substation began its 16-hour journey from Sidney, Nebraska to Magdalena. Excuse me. On August 8th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., the crews started gathering all of their information, all of the materials to take to Magdalena to be able to build an interconnect or a shoe fly bypass to connect to the mobile unit. So at 3 p.m. that afternoon, when everybody was there, including the Tri-State substation team, they got to work on building the shoe fly bypass. On August 9th, at about 2 a.m., the mobile unit arrived into Magdalena, and that's the pictures seen here. From about 2 a.m. in the morning, once the mobile substation arrived on scene, tests were performed throughout the day, and a very long safety checklist was completed. At approximately 4:30 p.m., final preparations were set, and the Tri-State's substation crew and our crew, Socorro Electric's crew, did the final preparations to restore the power. And at approximately 5:02 p.m. on August 9th, power was restored to Magdalena and all circuits were closed, and all affected areas were back online. So a total estimated loss of revenue for Socorro Electric was $20,620.77, with a total estimated loss of 145,296 kilowatt hours. Just a little bit of background on the Magdalena substation transformer. It was working properly up until that lightning strike. This is the dissolved gas analysis from May 8th of 2023 of this year, and there were no concerns, and it was operating healthy and at par. So as far as what we're going to do from this point on, we do have new transformers on order. One of them is a used transformer that has been purchased to serve as a temporary replacement for the damaged transformer. The transformer has been purchased short term, so that way we can go ahead and give the mobile substation back to Tri-State. The permanent solution will be here within about 40 weeks. And that 40-week lead time is an accelerated emergency order timeline. So normally it would be about 2 years to be able to get a new transformer. So we do have an emergency order in line to get one. The lightning deterrent system that we do have in place at the Magdalena substation are static arcing horns on all of our bushings, static line wires, and a full grounding grid. That is basically standard for substations. Let's see here. We do, and we have for the past few years been working on updating and upgrading this new or the substation. We do have a new 69 kVA line that will be going in within a year, and we're going to be building a new low profile Magdalena substation with this design seen here in the slide. It does have the lightning protection with the little lightning balls here and the static line here. So what we did as far as community outreach during this outage, Socorro Electric Cooperative bought 2,600 cases of water and 146 bags of ice. I believe that number for the bags of ice is a little bit low. I'm not exactly sure how many we bought, but it was a lot to distribute to Magdalena and Alamo during the outage. And the pictures there are on the left are our general manager helping distribute that water. A lot of us were there to help distribute that water. Socorro Electric Cooperative, myself included, worked with the governor's office and Roadrunner Food Bank and Positive Outcomes to help distribute food the week after the outage to the people of Alamo who were most hard hit by the outage. They had explained to us that they had lost a lot of food. So we coordinated with Roadrunner Food Bank to raise their food supply from 11,000 pounds of food to 33,000 pounds of food. We also, some of my coworkers and I went up and volunteered and helped distribute that food. So I would actually like to take this time to thank the New Mexico PRC for having me today, and our sister cooperatives and contractors who helped along the way. Hemet Springs Electric Cooperative, they offered to help with the mobile substation and being available to help us with other resources if needed. Otero County Electric Cooperative, reaching out to their contacts throughout the country to help with the substation transformer and being available to help us with resources if needed. Continental Divide and Energy Connect and Telecommunications Cooperative, my former cooperative, Angela Evans, she helped, and others within the cooperative helped by reaching out to their contacts throughout the country to help us find substation transformers. And of course, they helped with being available to help us with resources. T&D Services, they're reaching out to their contacts throughout the country also. And of course, Tri-State Generation and Transmission for the use of their mobile substation. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to get power restored within the 52 hours. And helping Socorro Electric with the new transformer and connect and test everything during this outage. So thank you. And that's the end of my presentation.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. I just had a couple of questions. So it sounds like there wasn't a replacement transformer on hand in New Mexico. So it got a temporary mobile transformer from Nebraska. So that's like about a 10-hour drive. So, I mean, that's good. Problem solving, got the problem solved. My question is then what position are we in going forward with the new transformer that Socorro has ordered? will that be located in New Mexico, or is that just a replacement for the transformer that got brought in, or, you know, are we gonna be, what's the position, you know, if this happened again, are we still waiting for transformers to come from Nebraska?
So our end goal here, we do have the one used transformer coming in to be able to take on the load while we give the mobile substation back to Tri-State. And then we're going to keep that transformer on hand next to our new transformer when we build the new substation. That new transformer will be 40 weeks out. So we needed something really quick to be able to for one, give Tri-State's mobile substation back to them, and to be able to handle the load for that substation. So as soon as we get that one in, there will be about a 4-hour outage, and we will notify all of the members in the area within within appropriate time, 24 to 48 hours before the outage, and then go from connecting that one. And then when we build our new substation, that's when the new transformer will be brought in, set in place, and the old one will be taken offline, but also be sitting there in case we need it either elsewhere or at that substation.
Okay, great. So I guess that answers the question. The used will become the spare.
Right.
Okay. And then just standardization of these substation designs, is each co-op unique or different, or is there any ability to share these transformers among co-ops within New Mexico?
So the standard design of a substation, it usually, I mean, especially with small rural co-ops, we don't really have, a $500,000 transformer on, as a backup. But in this case, we're going to moving forward. But they're normally pad mounted. They're humongous. They do take a crane to be dropped into the substation. So if in the future something like this happens, and this was definitely a fluke of nature, basically. It wasn't something that happens very often when a transformer is directly hit by lightning. So but getting back to the point, if we did have to take that transformer, the spare, once we get it in, out of that substation, we'll be able to and haul it to another substation if needed.
Yeah, thank you for that information.
But
Commissioner,
to actually answer your question, yes, different co-ops do have different designs for their substations.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any question, Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Williams. So it's my understanding then that the temporary transformer has not been installed yet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
As of right now, we are still running off of the mobile substation unit from Tri-State until it really did take about 2 weeks for us to even try and find for us to pinpoint where a used transformer was. And it is, they are very, very, very much a hot commodity right now, and they're wanted all over the US. And of course, with the supply chain issues that were brought on by COVID, a new substation transformer is 2 years or more out. So if this did happen anywhere in the country, again, to a smaller rural co-op like this, it could be even more than a 52-hour outage.
Okay. Thank you. So, and so you haven't installed this used transformer, but you have it on hand to install already? Is that?
No,
correct?
it is being transported. It took us about 2 weeks to find it, and now we're going through the motions of paying for it. And it did have to be, the purchase had to be approved by the board. It had to be, you know, during our board meeting, this last board meeting. And so we're purchasing it. It will be, from what I understand, it will be going to the crane operator's yard, and we're basically waiting on their time frame on when we can actually have it set, scheduled to set into the Magdalena substation.
Okay, thank you. And I was going to have.
Sorry.
No,
We're
go ahead.
looking at the end of month, this month, for it to be set.
Thank you. I was going to have the same questions about what happens after with it. I mean, it seems like you have an asset now that, you know, your fellow cooperative members can also use. Are they aware that you'll have this, you know, in case they need it?
You know, as you know, being a cooperative network like we are, you know, we're definitely open to sharing our resources with other cooperatives within the state, or, you know, in the outer areas too. But as of right now, this one's going to be our only transformer until the 40 weeks, after the 40 weeks.
Sure.
You know, so if anything happens until then, unfortunately,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I meant, you know, after when you have an extra.
Right, when we have it on hand. We're also looking at options of having the old transformer. It was really only 15 years old. We're looking at options of having it rewound and basically reconstructed, so that way we can have 2 backups if needed.
With respect to the new design of the Magdalena substation, is that a plan that you had already, or is that a plan that was put in place because of this event?
No, it was a plan that we had already. We actually have planned to start the new 69 kVA line running from Socorro into Magdalena. That construction will start in December. And once we get the KVA line to Magdalena, we'll start on the construction of the new substation. That was set in motion to start in December. Unfortunately, this happened before. So, but we had that all in place and planned out before COVID. And then when COVID hit, basically the design and everything had stopped. And so we were picking it back up, and actually we have supplies on order. You know, we've got a new pole yard going in Magdalena, so that way we can basically just get construction started and ready to go.
Okay, and you mentioned that this design has lightning protection. Is that a different technology that was installed in the substation, in the existing substation?
It's just a little bit more upgraded or updated. The lightning deterrent system that we have in the substation as it is right now, we had lightning rods, we had the static lines, we basically had every bit, the grounding system, we had every bit of lightning protection that we could have in place for this substation. However, unfortunately, if Mother Nature wants to take it out, it will. Actually, according to the NOAA information that I had in that third slide, that one day was the most active storms and lightning that we have seen in this area since and before.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm sure you said this and I read this somewhere, but what was the total length of the outage?
So it was 52 hours.
Well, thank you for the information. I don't have
You're very
other
welcome.
questions.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson, do you have any questions?
I do. Hi, Mr. Williams. Thank you for presenting today. What was the capacity of the transformer that was hit by lightning?
It was a 10 kVA, right? MVA, sorry.
And is that a rare type of transformer, or is that something that you would commonly see at one of your substations?
It is a common substation transformer. They're either 5 or 10 kVA or MVA, sorry. And but this one, I mean, they're pretty common, but pricing on them, you know, we're a really small cooperative. We're 11,000 square miles. Our total load is about between 33 and 35 megawatts, or yeah, sorry, 33 and 35 megawatts. So we're pretty small cooperative, and you know, we can't. Some bigger companies could probably go out and spend, you know, $5-6 million on a new transformer, and you know, unfortunately, our base won't allow us to do that. So
it seems like a shortcoming that no rural co-op in New Mexico had a spare transformer of a common size. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
Have you considered, is it possible to have agreements with the investor-owned utilities who may have be in a position to have more of these transformers in stock?
You know, it might be. Honestly, I don't know. It might be in the best interest of smaller cooperatives to be able to come to an agreement with some of the investor-owned you know, utilities, to be able to have some kind of agreement where they would share resources. But I honestly don't know.
Right. 52 hours outage for 1,600 customers seems like an extraordinary event. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, it definitely was an extraordinary event. It wasn't something that we see often. Lightning hitting a transformer on a pole, you see that pretty often. But lightning hitting a substation transformer is very rare. I've been told that it's a once in a lifetime event.
And it was certainly a hardship for those 1,600 customers.
Yes, sir, it was.
Well, certainly appreciate your presentation today, and your answering our questions. I know that you did what you could in a tough situation. It'd be nice to see some actions taken to have some spares on hand, or to lessen the probability of an event like this.
Right, and we definitely we're planning for that for the future.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Williams. Echo those statements of my fellow commissioners, and then it was interesting listening to it amount of those 52 hours that was transportation time, it's like just here to Sydney, Nebraska is like MapQuest told me like 10 hours. So that's a 20% of that was just.
Right, and it was an oversized load, so they actually had to get permits to come into New Mexico. They had to get emergency permits to, and my father is an oversized load truck driver, so they had to get tons of permits to just even cross into New Mexico and Colorado from Nebraska. So it was a very coordinated effort, and it really blows my mind that they were able to get it here as quickly as they did. So it was about 16 to 17 hours.
Yeah, so just good reminder that New Mexico is a pretty large state. With
Yeah, and
large distances. So anything we can do to help get resources more centrally located, that's what I'm taking away from this. But.
Right, that would actually definitely help for not only our co-op, but other co-ops, even smaller co-ops like Otero or, other co-ops in the state to be able to have resources like this on hand to be able to pull from. Thank goodness again for Tri-State having their mobile unit and on hand and not in use to be able to provide to us.
Again, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Just reminder, we tabled item A1, and we're going to vote on or discuss item B1 when we get to the regular agenda items. And so with that introduction, is there any more discussion or questions on consent agenda?
Don't have any discussion.
Okay, then I'll move to approve the potential orders on the consent agenda.
A second.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Aye,
Commissioner Aguilar.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Okay, so that moves us to the regular action items. First is a transportation matter. So Ms. Avila Stefans. Morning.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. For the Commission's review, I have provided a potential final order adopting the amendment to the ambulance minimum personnel rule. As some background, during COVID, to address some across the board's staffing shortages, the Commission issued a waiver to the rule that requires two EMTs to be present in an emergency, except for some unforeseen circumstances. But after COVID, the staffing shortages continued, and staff petitioned for a permanent rulemaking. And on May 4th, the Commission issued an order initiating rulemaking and a notice of proposed rulemaking. The notice of proposed rulemaking was provided to the public in accordance with the State Rules Act. And the Commission, the Public Regulation Commission Act. And the public comment hearing was held on July 8th. And we did not receive any comments during that public comment hearing. So we extended the opportunity to provide written public comment in this docket. And again, we did not receive public comment. So the order today adopts the rule as it was petitioned by staff and as it was noticed in the notice of proposed rulemaking.
Thank you for that presentation. Commissioners, do you have any questions? What's
Ms. Stefans, how would this proposed rule, how does it compare to what the State Department of Transportation has in place?
So the Transportation Department, I don't think has one, but the Department of Health has a similar rule. Our rule our rule demonstrates a preference for 2 EMTs, but if you cannot if it's not available, then we are okay with 1. Where the Department of Health just requires 1.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion?
Just want to say thank you for your work on this and, for bringing it. I know we didn't receive much discussion on this, but I still think it's important to have it on the regular agenda to, highlight that the changes are occurring. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so I'll move that we adopt the potential final order adopting rule.
I second.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Aye,
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
and thanks again. Next item is a utility matter, presentation from Ms. Judith Amer, talking about another rulemaking, the grid modernization.
Yes,
process.
good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. This matter comes before you today in case number 22-00089 UT in the matter of a commission inquiry into a rulemaking to implement the Grid Modernization Act, NMSA 1978, section 62-8-13, paren 2019. There has been a fairly long history in this case because it originally started in case number 21-00177. And then it was moved to, this docket was open and moved the grid modernization portion of the 21-00177 docket into this docket. There have been 3 previous bench requests issued with responses by EPE, PNM, and SPS. And the New Mexico Attorney General responded to the second bench request order. During 2022, there were a series of workshops periodically held. The commission hired GridWorks to do a series of webinars. That being said, currently we have 2 pending grid mod applications, but we do not have a grid mod rule. And this order would find that future grid mod applications should be guided by a rule that is eventually promulgated pursuant to this docket, but that at this point in time, the docket should be expanded to discuss the relationship between grid modernization planning and integrated distribution planning and the holistic approach to grid modernization. So at this point, although those topics have been discussed at previous workshops, these topics have not been fully explored. And this order would expand the docket to include that topic and would schedule a workshop to be held on September 28th, beginning at 9:30 a.m., lasting until approximately 12:30 p.m. with hybrid options. PNM, SPS, EPE, and utility division staff are required to attend, but other persons are permitted, invited, can attend by Zoom, or can watch via YouTube.
Thank you for that presentation. Any discussion or questions? I just had a couple items. First, like Commissioner Aguilera already expressed, I appreciate how you've been formatting these workshops, starting with expert to kind of frame it and provide context. Just curiosity, how did we pick Michigan and Minnesota for the potential experts to bring in?
So, I've been having discussions with folks in Berkeley labs who do this regulatory work and who work with utility commissions in different parts of the country. And these were a couple of commissions who they have experience with and who have gone through similar issues in that their state legislatures have passed grid modernization acts, and they've had to wrestle with how to implement those acts, and they've also thought about them in the context of integrated distribution planning. So it's two similar states, and they have contacts in those commissions.
Great. Yeah, that sounds like we're on track for a good opening on this. And then the other thing was just an observation. I went back and looked at the Grid Modernization Act, and I didn't find in there the requirement for us to pass a rule. So I was just thinking about that in contrast to what we have later on the agenda. Is there's that one provision in the ETA that applies to one utility, and we have to pass a rule for that. But then this one is, like you described it, wrestling. When I just think about which one cries out for a rule more than the other, I would pick grid modernization myself. But that's just an observation. Did you have anything, Commissioner Aguilera?
Well, to sort of tag along on that comment, I also went back to the Grid Modernization Act and noticed the same thing, which was the reason for one of my suggested edits in rephrasing the second sentence in what is paragraph 17, just to say that the commission seeks to determine whether we should adopt rules. So I think it's, for me, it's still a little bit of an open question, right? And that's something I think that we will want to consider as we have this workshop.
I'd just like to add, I do personally think it's important as we go forward. As Ms. Amers pointed out, we have two grid modernization applications before us now, and I think we can expect more applications in the future. I do think it would make sense for us to establish some rules and criteria by which we would judge those applications. So, no one is surprised by how the commission views those applications. And I do also think that this idea of looking at grid modernization as part of distribution planning is something that has merit. That's obviously not something required or spelled out in the Grid Modernization Act, but if you think about it, the grid modernization to a large extent you can think about as the gadgets that sit on top of the distribution system, but they really depend on the underlying health of the distribution system itself, and a lot of times they're trying to accomplish similar goals such as reliability. And so I think it really makes sense to not silo the two areas, but look at them together to say, well, if our end goal is to increase reliability, say, then, maybe, there's a cheaper way to do it than to put these gadgets on the grid. Maybe, beefing up the grid itself is a more cost-effective way of doing it. So it's just, looking at it together. And, this order doesn't expressly talk about it, but, I think when we think about transportation electrification, there's an argument to be made that that should also be considered together with distribution planning. For example, if an underground cable reaches the end of its life or needs to be replaced, do you replace it with the same capacity cable, or do you put a beefier cable in, understanding that we're probably going to see this load growth with vehicle electrification. I think the majority of the cost in, say, replacing an underground cable is digging the trench and then covering the trench back up, and so adding a little extra cost for a higher capacity cable may make sense. And if we totally separate the two areas, then the vehicle electrification may call for replacement of perfectly good underground cables to put in higher capacity cables, when really maybe that ought to be part of what we're thinking about in our distribution planning. So I think there's the opportunity to think about how these things work together.
Yeah, those are excellent points, and thank you for bringing them together. I do think there are, in terms of making prudent decisions that benefit consumers, I think that the overlap between these topics certainly merits thinking about them at the same time.
Not seeing any further discussion, so Commissioner, you want to move approval of your plan?
Yes, I'd like to move that we adopt this order scheduling the workshop.
I second.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner Aguilar.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, next up are two items with presentations from Mr. Robert Lundeen. First is a case 23-00153 UT, and then this next one, just reminder, is the item we moved from the consent agenda. So 20-00237 UT. So floor is yours, Mr. Lundeen.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. First, I must apologize for not being there in person. But today we have to discuss the matter of the formal complaint of David Nickerson versus New Mexico Gas Company. And what I've prepared for you today is a final order approving offer of satisfaction with conditions, dismissing complaint, and closing the docket. Over the past 2 weeks, we've met to discuss this case in detail. I provided a memo to you all, and we discussed potential alternatives. However, we're at the point where the Commission's investigation of the complaint is complete, and we have a factual record that we are now comfortable to make a decision on. So just as a little bit of backstory before we get to the vote or discussion, the complaint was filed in April. It follows an informal complaint that was filed with our CRD division. And the matter in controversy occurred in March of this year. And over the past several months, we've been engaged in a fact-finding mission to shore up the record and get to a point where we can make an informed decision. So you are all well informed about what I'm presenting today, so I will stop speaking now and be standing for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lundin. I had quite a few conversations with you on this and I don't find myself in a position to have any questions, and I think order is well written and speaks for itself. So commissioners, if you have any questions or any discussions you'd like to add.
I guess just a few comments. I appreciate the conversation that I had with Mr. Lundin on this topic as well. It doesn't seem that New Mexico Gas violated any rules and regulations. They did what they did with removing the customer's meter and turning off the gas out of safety concerns, and they were well within their right to do so. If I would fault the company, it would be that the communication could have been better. The problem could have been resolved a little sooner. Although there was no formal violation in my view, the customer was inconvenienced by not having gas the whole weekend on a winter weekend.